Hello everyone, I'm getting all spooky this week. When this goes out it's going to be the day after Halloween, but it's kind of the Halloween period, isn't it? So yeah, I've come out to a local park and it's about 11 o'clock at night, and the plan is to get a self-portrait, but then I'm going to manipulate it in Photoshop and put a pumpkin on my head. So I don't know if it's going to work. I'm not sure it's a good idea right now, to be honest. It's really dark, which is not good when you're trying to do photography, because we all know that light is an integral part of photography. And yeah, it's a self-portrait, so it's going to be difficult, but we'll see what we can do. If nothing else, it's going to be fun. So here we go. Okay, so I've got these battery-powered LED lights, which I'm going to be using to illuminate me. And I'm going to be sitting on this park bench behind me, and I'm going to get one shot of me sat on the bench and then another shot of this pumpkin which I carved earlier in the week. And the plan is to get a shot of me and then place the pumpkin in the scene around about where my head is, take the shot again of the pumpkin, and then later on in Photoshop I can replace my head with the pumpkin. Hopefully that's the plan anyway. So I've also brought a secret weapon with me, which is a smoke grenade. Okay, so I think that's going to be it. It's not going to be perfect. I know I've not got a perfect shot, but I don't really want to hang around. And my smoke grenade's gone now, so I'm going to have to use what I've got and see what I can make. So yeah, I'm going to get this packed up and get back. Right, so that was quite a lot of fun. It was pretty difficult because, like I said, it was so dark and I was on my own. Well, my wife was there, but she was operating the video camera, and so I was having to use the self-timer to get the shot of myself. And I was very conscious that there were a few late night dog walkers and things in the park, and I think I was really creeping them out. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time there. So yeah, I was a little bit rushed and I didn't quite get the shots that I wanted. But I think I got something I could use, and it was fun to put this together. I'll show you now on screen what I got. This is the final image. And so I've manipulated this quite a lot in Lightroom and Photoshop, and I'll just go through some of the major steps, how I got to that result now. Okay, so I'm not going to run through all of the changes I've made in Lightroom because they're quite a lot, and it'll be quite a long video if I do that, but I'll talk through some of the major changes. If we look at the original image here, you'll see because I was using the LED lights, there's quite a lot of brightness on my face. It's really illuminating my face, and much of the detail in the background is much further away from the light, so that's dropped really dark. So the first thing I've done is just drop the highlights so that my face is not too bright, and boosted the shadows a bit so there's a bit more detail in the background. I've dropped the blacks down to compensate for bringing the shadows up, just to make those a little bit blacker and richer. And with the white balance, I've tried to give it a spooky kind of feeling by making it a cooler image. If I bump that back up, you'll see it starts warming it up again. I've actually dropped it to the bluer end of the scale to make it cooler, and I've also dropped the tint down to the greener end, because greens look a bit kind of creepy and just a bit odd and unusual, so that gives it more of a spooky Halloween vibe. I have dropped the dehaze a little bit. I wanted it to look a little bit kind of like misty, and in the final image I've even added some mist in Photoshop, some pretend mist. But just to start the process off, I've used the dehaze slider and I've gone minus. So if you go plus to this end of the scale, you're going to cut down on haze. So if you've got quite a hazy image to start with and you go upwards, it'll reduce that haze, but you can get the opposite effect by bringing that slider down. And I've just made some changes to the saturation so it's not too saturated. I think just bringing the saturation down again just makes it look a bit more creepy and a bit scary, a bit less colourful and bright. And that's one of the images I'm going to use, and the other image is this one. So that's me holding the pumpkin round about where my head is on the other photo, obviously with the smoke coming out. And I've just I've copied the changes from this one. What you can do, you can make the changes in this image, and then you can click on your second image and you can just click the previous button down here and it'll copy all the same changes to this image. And I've also cropped it into a square format. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to command click the other image, or it'll probably control click on a PC, I think. But you want those two highlighted, basically the two images you want to use. And then right click and edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. And that'll bring both of those images into Photoshop as a separate layer. So you'll see now we have our two images, that one and that one. And my original plan with this was to just create a mask on the top layer, like so, by going to layer mask, reveal all, and then literally just using a brush, and wherever I paint black, bear with me, I just need to choose a general brush. Wherever I paint black, it would hide that layer and reveal the one behind. Just need to put my opacity up a little bit. So you see it starts to bring through whatever was in the layer behind. But the problem is, it was very difficult to get it lined up exactly with my head, so you'll see that the pumpkin there is not really lined up with my head. So I ended up going for a different technique. Instead of using the layer mask, what I did was I actually used the lasso tool just to draw around the pumpkin and the smoke. I'm going to do it very, very quickly now, but obviously took a little bit more time with this. Doesn't have to be exact, you can still leave a little bit of blackness around the edge. And I just hit Command J or Control J on your keyboard, and that will copy that part of the layer, so you just end up with that bit of the pumpkin and the smoke there. If I put that above my top image, I'm then able to kind of position that over my head, and I just made that a bit bigger. You can do that by going to Edit, Transform, or you can click Free Transform there, and then you can just drag that so it's a bit bigger. And then from this point I added a layer mask just to kind of get rid of those bits around the edge. So getting rid of the hands here, for example, around the top here. And again, I'm just doing this extremely quickly now, but I took a lot longer on this. Once I'd done that, I needed to kind of get rid of my thumbs and hands on the pumpkin. So I used a bit of cloning. I just created a new layer, used the clone stamp, and then I would just select an area to clone, and then you can just kind of paint down over the thumbs. You just take a bit of time on that, and you can make it look alright. There's a sticker here on the pumpkin that it was proving quite difficult to remove, so I thought it would just be easier to get rid of it in Photoshop, to be honest. So it's like that. And then once I'd done that, just to kind of make it blend in a bit better, I darkened around the back of the pumpkin. So I just used the burn tool, and with about 37 or 30% exposure, just kind of like darkened up this area around here. Like so. And then did it a little bit with the highlights as well, and the shadows, just to give it a bit more free dimensions. I mean, it doesn't look very good here because I'm doing it pretty quickly, but if we look at the final image, you'll see that the pumpkin head and the smoke and things are much better blended into the original image, and this one, because I've taken a lot more time. One of the other things I did to help it blend in, if I decide some of these layers, is I added some adjustment layers. The first one was hue and saturation. So you can add an adjustment layer by going to the adjustments panel up here, choosing the one you want. So in my case I chose hue and saturation and also levels. You just click those and they'll appear as a layer down here, and they affect everything below. So that hue and saturation will actually affect every single layer below, unless you right click it and you choose clipping mask. Once you've chosen clipping mask, it'll only apply to the layer directly below. And if I just click on that adjustment layer, you can see what I've done here. I've got -15 saturation, -8 for the lightness, and that just slightly darkens it and slightly takes a bit of the colour out, because I just thought it just stood out a bit too much compared to the background image. It was too saturated, too bold and colourful, and didn't blend in very well. And then with the levels, that just darkens it a little bit. If we look at that one, I think I've just brought up the middle slider slightly towards this end, so you see what that does. And that was just to stop it being too bright, basically. So then the final bits I added to this was just some kind of smoke, well, mist. Didn't have any mist at the time, so I used this custom brush here, and in the brush settings I add some scatter in, a little bit of jitter, things like that, and you can just paint that in. You'll see there it's quite bright. If I do that on a new layer, and then you can just change that to blend mode screen, turn the opacity down, and just build up your layers of smoke. And so yeah, that's the final image. And here are a couple more images I got as well. So there you go, that's how I created a Halloween image using Lightroom, Photoshop, a pumpkin and a smoke grenade. And do be careful with the smoke grenade, because you'll notice in the footage earlier there was a little bit of a kick. After it had started smoking, there was a second kind of kick of the flames, which I wasn't expecting. So you really need to just give it a bit of time until it's just fully smoking and you're not going to get any more fire, particularly if you're going to put it inside an object. So yeah, I hope you've had a really fun Halloween. If you're watching the channel for the first time, why not subscribe? You can click the big red button down here, or you can click over here in the circle where my face is. And yeah, you can keep up to date with what I'm doing each week. It's often landscapes and things like that, and I'm posting a new video every Sunday at 10 AM UK time. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll catch you again next week. Bye.